The concept of revival has been a looming topic of the Dream SMP for the last year. Ever since the disc finale, where Dream admitted he can bring people back to life, the idea of revival has become a key element to a few storylines on the SMP. For one, it's the whole reason Dream was put into the prison instead of having his last canon life taken. It's the reason Tommy lost his last canon life in order for Dream to bring him back, and ask about death was like, and prove that he could actually bring people back in the first place. Lastly, it's the reason Wilbur was able to re-enter the story in place of Ghostbur. But how exactly does that work? Up until recently, we've had no idea how the process of revival even worked, except that it did. But that has since changed with the introduction of the Book of Death. This came with its own set of rules and consequences for its use, namely that a life had to be taken from the user in order to take someone else's life. But what if the same logic applied to the revival book? Moreover, what if the two books are connected in some way, meaning that in order to use one, you have to use another? What if the only way to bring someone back to life is by trading someone else's life for their own? This is my theory on how the revival book requires the sacrifice of another in order to work. What we knew about revival beforehand. Prior to the introduction of the Book of Death on the SMP, there had been a few things we as the audience had learned about the concept of revival on the server. We know that in order for Dream to revive someone, he essentially has to travel into their limbo and bring them back. This explains why Tommy heard Dream's voice in his limbo void before coming to again, and why Wilbur claims his revival experience involved Dream coming on a train with Ghostbur in order for them to swap places. Though, one thing I never understood is why Ghostbur and Wilbur remain separate after his revival, since they seem to be two parts of one whole person, but that's a question for another day. Lastly, we know that since his revival, Wilbur has gained a white streak in his character's Minecraft skin, potentially as a result of the revival process. While the same has not been seen for Tommy, many artists and fans alike have depicted him with one in fan art, or have a headcanon in which he dyes his hair to cover it up. But we won't know if the white hair is canon to revival until a creator confirms it. So, how does revival actually work? My theory is that in order to bring back a life, another must be taken from someone else. As we have seen from many other sources of media, all magic comes with a price. And due to the rules of the Book of Death on the server, it's safe to say that phrase applies to the Dream SMP. Therefore, for the revival book to work, a life of equal amount must be taken from someone else. And there's only one way for that to happen: by taking a canon life. Within the Dream SMP, there exists a canon life system for each member. In a typical Minecraft server, when a player dies, they can simply respawn and continue playing. This is true for the Dream SMP, however, because there is an added storytelling element, a canon life system was put in place to add weight to the story. So, if a player on the SMP dies while randomly fighting a mob, they can respawn and keep playing without it having an impact on their story. However, if a death is included in a lore stream, or has a serious impact within the storyline, then the character is considered to have lost one of their 3 canon lives within the server. Once a player has lost all 3 canon lives, they are considered permanently dead and cannot respawn as their character. Unless, of course, they are brought back by the revival book. Someone coming back to life by the revival book implies the inclusion of canonical lore, so it would make sense then that the trade-off for revival is to take a canonical life from someone else. Otherwise, Dream would just bring back people out of spite, most likely bringing back both Wilbur and Schlatt the second he went into prison in order to get himself out. Taking someone's canonical lives could also explain why Rambu has 2 missing lives. We never actually saw him canonically die, that we know of, so It would make sense then that Dream's two revivals during his stay in prison, Tommy and Wilbur, would be the reason why Ranboo only had one life left by the time he died to Sam. Especially since we know Dream had some sort of control over Ranboo both before and during his prison stay. And lastly, it would also explain why Foolish, someone who thought himself immortal, had a canon death at the Red Banquet. Because Dream took enough lives away from him to essentially wear his immortality away. I mean, someone with 100 canon lives would consider themselves essentially immortal, so if Dream wanted to experiment with the revival book in an inconspicuous way, he had to take lives from someone who wouldn't notice. Someone immortal. This would also explain why Foolish wished for immortality in return for building the statue of Dream XD. It was something he always thought he had and now needed back in order to feel safe. The revival book is one of the most interesting plot points on the SMP. It creates a way for characters to have meaningful deaths within the story, but allowing for them to continue on in the lore if they so choose. It also enables some very interesting character interactions if people want to make a deal with Dream in order to have someone revived. But in order for death to continue to have true meaning on the SMP, the cost of revival cannot be free. A canon life must be taken from someone else in order for it to be used to bring another character back. Whether or not this will be confirmed by the creators remains to be seen, and there may be another catch for the use of the revival book, which we have yet to figure out. Until then, we just have to wait and see if, or when, the revival book is used once more. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Let me know in the comments below how you think the process of revival works, and be sure to check out my other Dream SMP theory videos on the screen. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!